Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. You are here today for one of our ICIP virtual trainings. I think this is probably number 20 on our list so far, but this one was extremely important because we did make just a couple of changes on the grant agreement. And so we just wanted to make sure that not only you were aware of that, but also that you knew of those changes. Hello? I'm so sorry. Thank you, Dallas. So if you all, again, my apologies, but with the grant agreement, not only that you're aware, but also that you're aware of everything that is in your grant agreement that you're signing, right? And also we will be talking, we have our acting division director, Ms. Jeanette Gallegos, who will be talking at the end about my apologies, about the year-end policies updates that we did. So that was, I think, extremely important. So please, please, please try to stay on for the entire presentation. Also want to take this opportunity to not only thank Jeanette for joining me, but also to thank Gio for setting all of this up. She just did send out the agenda and the presentations to everyone. So if you did not receive it, please just add your name and your email to the chat and we'll make sure that you get it. And these will also be recorded, as you see, and we will be placing this on our website as well as copies of the presentations. So with that, let's move forward. And again, we just ask that as you are in the training, unless you have a question or anything like that and would like to ask it, verbally instead of in the chat, you're welcome to do that. But we ask that you do raise your hand and then we can recognize you. And so you can ask your question. But again, we ask that all questions please also be included in the chat. That way we can share that information with everybody. So again, please keep your cameras turned off and your microphones turned off. It's very important because of bandwidth. We are expecting about 300 today. So hopefully everyone is able to make it. And if not, we'll make sure that they get a copy of this. So let's move on. Again, with the agenda. Again, we are starting, today is June 7th. We're starting at 10:30. Hope to finish within an hour. If not, it may take a little bit longer, but hoping to stay within that hour. Again, we're going to be talking about the grant agreement, right? So just the overview and the purpose, key components of your grant agreement, the budget allocation, how that happens, reporting and compliance standards, financial management, communication and documentation, compliance and monitoring, and the year-end policy updates. We'll also give the COGS that are joining us today an opportunity to talk always, because they are definitely a partner with us in all of this virtual training that we're doing for the ICIP. And then we do not have any upcoming June events, but we will. So I just wanted to keep that on the agenda just to let you know that there will be probably 2 or 3 more trainings that we're going to be offering for you all. And then also just to update you on what is happening with the 27th Annual Infrastructure Conference happening in October. So with that, I am actually going to switch my presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. And I'm going to switch it out to my other presentation. Again, we have, just open this up, and then we will go from there. Okay. Well, you don't see all the background stuff happening, right? Okay, so let's get started. So again, you are here today to learn and listen about your grant agreement and our year-end policies here at DFA. So again, what we're going to be talking about is overview and purpose of your grant agreement, key components of your grant agreement template, the budget allocation, reporting and compliance standards, financial management, communication and documentation, compliance and monitoring, and the year-end policy updates. So to begin, overview of your grant agreement. Again, very simple, right? A grant agreement is a legal contract between a grantor, in this case, could be New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration or one of the other state agencies, and a grantee, your organization, outlining terms for utilizing grant funds. It ensures transparency, accountability, and compliance with regulations in infrastructure development. So the purpose of the grant agreement is to ensure proper allocation and utilization of public funds for infrastructure projects. It establishes clear guidelines and responsibilities for both parties involved. It facilitates effective project management and successful project outcomes. We love to see projects be completed, not only implemented, but completed as well. So the key components of your grant agreement include the legislative language, the budget allocation, arts and publications, if art in public places, if it's applicable, reporting requirements, and compliance standards. So some of the things that we changed on here, you'll see, and hopefully you're able to see this, but with what we've emailed you, you'll definitely be able to see it. But we added, because we always had just 93100 capital appropriation project. What does that mean, right? So what that means is it comes from the general fund. So the 2024 funding that we are going to be sending out grant agreements next week from us is all funded through general fund. So it goes on with a little bit more of information in here, the recitals where the actual funding is located on the bill, right, on House Bill. Actually, it's Senate Bill 247, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. And so we copy that information, and actually the Capitol team really work hard on this. This is not an easy thing. It's called page and line. And they actually have to go through the bill, add all this information, for the grant agreements on a spreadsheet, and it's a lot of work. Alone this year with DFA, we were actually included. We're going to be administering almost 600 projects, so that's quite a bit that we do. In here also, you'll see that as we stated, the legislative language is located here. And what we added again in here, just for your information, all of the laws, where all that came from, but it's also from the general fund and the purpose to plan, design, construct. And Albuquerque, I hope you don't mind, but we are sharing one of your grant agreements on here. Again, it'll include the project ID number, the amount that it was appropriated, and the reversion date. So in this case, it's June 30th, 2028. And then we will go through, also, you'll see right below that is the information on the, if AIPP is applicable. Gosh, my voice isn't working today. My mouth isn't, sorry. So that is, in this case, it is a trail, right, that they're working on. So the AIPP is not applicable. That's usually for any project that's over $100,000 that includes construction of a public facility. Okay. So legislative language, again, it's provided by the grantee initially, right? You're putting the information on your ICIP, you're applying for capital outlay through the Legislative Council Service. Their staff drafts the capital outlay project bill, which includes, again, the amount of funding approved by the legislators at each legislative session and signed by the governor. The grant agreement is assigned, and then the grant agreement number is assigned, and then the appropriation reversion date is determined. And again, if it's a piece of equipment, right, you're wanting to purchase a vehicle, that'll be a 2-year. If it's a construction project, it'll be a 4-year. So again, the year is allocated and from the location on the bill. So you'll see all of that. And then also the language determines from what funding it can be used for and what it was appropriated from, like the general fund or severance tax bond or the general obligation bonds. So on Article 1 of your grant agreement, I'm going to try to explain a little bit. Not only, I'm not going to have like snippets of each of the from the grant agreement, but I'll try to explain, hopefully in layman's terms for you, what it all means. And again, if you have any questions at all, and if you feel like, you want to add from any of the staff that are here, not only from the budget division, but also from the capital team, please feel free to jump in, because this is a new one for me, okay? So on Article 1, talks about, again, description, the amount of the grant, the reversion, the fund, and AIPP. And I kind of already went over that, but I put it in here a little bit bigger so you can see that. So again, this is where the on the bill, where it came from, the amount that was appropriated, again, the fund that it's coming from, and then the purpose on how you can use those funds. So in this case, say it doesn't, you say, well, you know what, I want to buy a vehicle. Well, it doesn't say anything in here to purchase a vehicle, although it does say to equip. So that probably would not be allowed. Okay, so again, so that's how we determine here as we are processing to be able to, provide you some, hopefully some, some direction on how you can use your funds. So was there a question? I saw a hand raised and then it went away.
No, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Okay, no problem at all. Thank you. And then again, so here again, it talks about the AIPP. And in this case, as I said, I stated earlier, there's none that are applicable for this. And I just wanted to kind of read this last statement. So in the event of a conflict among the appropriation amount, the reversion date as defined herein, and or the purpose of the project as set forth in the agreement, and the corresponding appropriation language in the laws cited above, is this Article 1A, the language of the law cited herein, shall control this project. Okay? So again, in Article 1, it does talk about optional language. So, and it's usually, you'll see an attachment, okay, that it's also added to your grant agreement. And in this case, it would be attachment A. So the optional language is added to your grant agreement, and it could include requirements of special conditions or the need for a fiscal agent. And this hasn't always happened in the past, right? We just work with you, get that MOU, but this year we're really trying to add that in there for you. So it is, again, additional, more stringent requirements or and conditions. And if the optional language is added, it's going to rule, I guess, or prevail, right? So again, that's why, you will be required to have a fiscal agent or if there's special conditions. So all correspondence and submissions, what we ask here at DFA anyway, must include the project number. That way, anytime that you are, asking any questions on, hey, where's my grant agreement, or, anything like that, or what's the status of payment? What's the status of approving a no? It's just very important for us, not only for you to add it in the subject line, but also in the content of the email. So we want, especially for notice of obligations, pay requests, reports, again, anything like that. It just helps us track all of that, right? And we also have a process here at DFA that if you do, when you are submitting your notice of obligations and your pay requests, any follow-up along with it should be included in that email, our payables email, because again, that's our tracking system here. Okay? Any questions on that? None? I'll go on to Article 2. So this is the limitation on the department's obligation to make grant disbursement to the grantee. This is letter A in there. So again, apologies for reading, right? But again, I just want to make sure that not only is it said in writing, but also said verbally as well. So funds may be used for purposes within the scope of the project description, as we discussed before. Grantee will be reimbursed for no more than the appropriation amount. A notice of obligation must be submitted to the project manager and approved prior to expending any funds, if applicable. Right? Some of the things in the past, like a junior bill, didn't require a no. But anymore, I think that, a lot of things that you are going to see coming from us will require a notice of obligation, or we call it a no. Expenditures must be made on or before reversion date with goods and services delivered prior to that date, which you're going to hear more at the end. Expenditures made pursuant to the state procurement code and execution of binding written obligations or purchase order within the third party contractor. You must submit your pay request in accordance with the procedures in Article, and these always new Roman numerals get me crazy, but Article 9 of the grant agreement. If capital assets required within the project funds are sold, leased, and or licensed to or operated by a private entity, this must be approved by the oversight entity. So what does that mean? Let's say that you're wanting to sell something that you had originally purchased with capital outlay funds. So you will, in our case, need to reach out to our Budget and Finance Bureau, and they have a system, or I guess a procedure that you would have to follow. Again, if you are working with an entity that is a nonprofit, then you would need to definitely probably share like a lease agreement or anything like that, that you might have an MOU with that entity as well. So Article 2, this is the same article, but it says B, C, and D altogether. So the grantee is responsible for implementing all aspects of this project. Okay, grantee must provide all necessary qualified personal, material, and facilities to implement the project, including project overruns. Projects cannot be used for purposes other than what is specified on the project description. You can always ask, right? You can always ask us, and we will definitely research it and do our due diligence in order to assist you in answering those questions. But please know, sometimes that it can't be approved, for one reason or another. So, that's one thing. We just hope that you accept that, and we can look at something else that might qualify. Funds cannot be used for indirect project costs unless specified in the law language. So indirect costs could be like, I don't know, help me somebody. I can't think of an indirect cost at this point.
Salaries and benefits?
Yes, salary and benefits. Thank you so much. Again, some of these junior bills might allow you to do that, but this does not. Okay, your regular grant agreement. Thank you, Emily. Okay. Any questions or additions on Article 2 before we go on? And if you want to raise your hand, that'd be great, or put it in the chat. I'm actually going to open my chat so I can see that as well. Okay, so Article 3. Notice provisions and grantees and department designated representatives. This is where you put your contact information, in other words, right? So with the contact information on the official representative or successor, we like to see the county manager, the mayor, tribal governor, or president, etc. Okay, so it shouldn't be the clerk on that first portion, right? Second portion should be the fiscal officer or chief financial officer, or the fiscal agent. Say that you do require a fiscal agent. We do like to see that on there because they will be required to actually sign off on your pay requests and no's. Okay, that's part of what their job will be. Again, it could be the designated fiscal agent in this case. And then the department or the state agency will be all of your project manager information. Okay. All notices, including written decisions related to the grant agreement, should be included in, with all of these individuals should be included in that, in any correspondence with that. Okay. Article 4. Reversion date, term, deadline to expend funds. So the reversion date, as you saw on the grant agreement, that's the grant agreement establishes a date by which the project funds must be expended by the grantee. The term, effective as of the date of execution by the department. Sometimes that's different though, so just know that. Expenditure funds must be expended on or before the reversion date or early termination date. Funds are not expended and an expenditure has not occurred as of the date they are encumbered by the grantee or a contractor purchase with the third party. Next, Article 5, early termination. So early termination could include termination due to completion of project before the reversion date, termination due to complete expenditure of the adjusted appropriation amount before the reversion date, and the adjusted is the one minus AIPP. That's what that means. Termination for violation of the terms of the agreement, or termination for suspected mishandling of public funds, including but not limited to fraud, waste, abuse, conflicts of interest. Article 6, suspension of new or further obligations. So in this case, the department may choose to provide written notice to the grantee to suspend entering into the new and further obligations. Written notice by grantee, the grantee will immediately suspend entering into new or further notes. And the department will suspend the issuance approval of any new or future notes. The department may direct the grantee to implement a corrective action in accordance with Article 6D. Article 7, Amendment. The grant agreement shall not be altered, changed, or amended except by instrument in writing duly executed by both parties. So what does that mean? Must be requested and or communicated in writing. If you're thinking that, you're something is that you're not agreeing with in the agreement, in the grant agreement, but just know that this very rarely happens and is very rarely approved. So Article 7, reporting. This is something new in your grant agreement, right? Because before it used to be monthly reporting and that in CPMS, and then it went to quarterly reporting in BFM. Now it's back to quarterly reporting, but it is in CPMS again. Okay, so all this says, and all of the dates are on here on when your quarterly reports are due. They're due on the last day of each quarter, ending periods of September 30th, December 31st, March 31st, and June 30th. Extremely important, and why? Because not only do we look at that as we're approving your notice of obligation and pay request, just to make sure that everything is updated, right? Because as a state agency, we're also required to update everything quarterly in the in CPMS. So again, you'll see right down here where it says article reports. This is what it looks like. Okay, that's in Article 8, and it is that's what it looks like. It's just a little 2-paragraph thing. So again, you're required to report quarterly. And also the legislative, what I was continuing to say is not only your legislators look at this, Legislative Finance Committee looks at this, they might even contact you, the Legislative Finance Committee, because they want to make sure that, they want to know if everything is moving smoothly, if there are any delays, what is going on with your project. So just know that you may get contacted by the Legislative Finance Committee, and then we might also ask if a legislator is asking us directly, we may reach out to you, our project manager, or myself, just to find out where are you on this project, and just to remind you again that it is very necessary for you to do this reporting monthly. So actually, and in the pay request form, and I actually added a little snippet here right at the bottom, in your pay request form, it actually has your reporting certification. You're saying, yes, I did it. Okay, and there's a little check mark that you need to mark. If it's not marked, your project manager may reach out to you, but we'll probably look at CPMS first to make sure that it is updated. And again, what we're looking for, and we have training on this on our website, right, on what is looked at in CPMS. We have a CPMS training there. So if you don't know where it's at, I'm going to show you later. Okay. So again, you're saying, yes, I have done everything. And if not, just know that this may jeopardize your reimbursement if the database CPMS is not updated as required. Okay, so if you submitted a pay request to us and it was already due, we see that you hadn't done that, we will reach out to you. It'll delay it. Just know that, okay? So written notice will be sent to the grantee, providing a minimum 30-day notice if not in compliance with the reporting requirements. Additional information and or inspection may be requested, as I stated earlier, not only from us, but the Legislative Finance Committee, as well as the governor's office. They may contact you. A legislator may contact you directly. So just know that. Okay, so it's super important for you to do that. Does anybody want to add anything to that? Any of the team that's here? Hopefully I captured everything. Yeah, I'm thinking that is no. Okay, the next article, request for payment procedures and deadlines. So the grantee is required to submit a request for payment using the form provided by the department. So not only do we provide that to you, we actually provide you a fillable one, but also most agencies will just direct people to the website for the capital outlay, and then there is a template there. But just know the one that we provide you is fillable. It'll do the calculations for you. It's just so much easier to use the one that we submit to you. And we can always tell if something else is used, so just know that. So the pay request must contain the proof of payment by the grantee showing expenditures that are valid. You may also get reimbursed for unpaid liabilities or disbursement that can be requested, but just know it has to go through a approval process through us. And that does take, again, a little bit of time to get that approved. And also to remind you, and I'll go a little bit more into the deadlines, but also to remind you on that is that the grantee must obligate 5% of the adjusted appropriation amount within 6 months of the execution of the grant agreement. If you're not able to do that, you must include something in CPMS, letting us know what is going on with that project and why you're not able to obligate those funds. And that's getting a no approved and all of that stuff, right? And then you also must expend no less than 85% 6 months prior to the reversion date. So, and also just to let you know, back to the pay request and the no's, with us here at GFA, we actually provide you some submission information, right, on instructions on how to do that, how we will want things named, how, naming conventions, all of that stuff, what backup is required for both the no's and the pay request. So it's not only, showing the proof of payment, it is also showing a copy of the invoice, the cleared or canceled check, whatever your system is, that might work for us as well, because I know the larger communities do that. So just know, copy of the notice of obligation that was approved that goes along with that pay request. The no's, we need a copy of the quote on what was chosen for, following your procurement and all of that good stuff. So we do need a copy of that particular quote that was actually approved. And so you'll see that information. Again, we're going to be sending that out to you. We'll keep it on our website. That way you all know where it's at as well. So on deadlines, requests for payments must be submitted by the grantee to the department. We ask that, as soon as you get that proof of payment, send that pay request to us. You don't have to do it monthly. You don't have to do it quarterly. You don't have to, whenever you get it, if you want to submit, and please staff forgive me for this, but if you need to submit more than one a month, or more than one no a month, please do so, because we want to make sure that that project is moving along. That's what we're interested in. So just know that, okay? And also, what we ask is that you do it 20 days from the date of early termination or 20 days from the reversion date. Everything should be done by that time.
Hey, Carmen, it has to be a
Yes,
minimum
Maureen.
of it has to be a minimum of $1,500.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. Thank you so much. So it does need to be a minimum of $1,500 or more, right? Or more than that. And the reason is, and if you see that that's all you can do, and it's close to the reversion date, and just know that we probably would need a memo or something stating why you're doing that right now, why you feel like you need to submit that pay request right away. Might be to, hopefully put that money back in your account, whatever. But again, usually it's if you have less than 1,500 left on your grant agreement, then then that's okay, obviously, right? So again, just work with your project manager. They'll be able to assist you. Thank you again, Maureen. So again, the request for payment procedures on this. So the department has the right, any department, any state agency has the right to reject a payment request until it's satisfied that the expenditures are permissible, can't talk today, and all the backup information is included. So if the grantee does not abide by these requirements, it could result in the denial of the request for payment and or the no, right? And will delay the processing of all of that. So this includes compliance with reporting requirement in the database in CPMS. So the department's ability to reject any request for the payment is in addition to, and not in lieu of, the other legal or equitable remedy available to the department due to the grantee's violation of the grant agreement. Okay, so just know that. Again, if you have any questions prior to submitting anything, contact your project manager. They'll assist you. That's what we're here for. Okay, so just know that. So Article 10, project conditions and restrictions, representations, and warranties. Again, this is all from the grant agreement. This is all about procurement, right? So project funds must be spent in accordance with all applicable state laws, including the state procurement code. Projects must be implemented in accordance with the New Mexico Public Works Minimum Wage Act. Projects may only benefit private entities in accordance with applicable law, but not limited to Article 9, Section 14 of the Constitution of the State of New Mexico, or the Anti-Donation Clause. Grantee may not convert any property acquired, built, renovated, repaired, designed, or developed with the project funds to uses other than that what's specified in the project description for a period of 10 years. Okay, just know that. Again, that's in your grant agreement. You must comply with all federal and state laws, rules, and regulations pertaining to equal employment opportunities. Okay. So again, on this, the grantee has legal authority to receive and expend the project funds, obviously, because you're signing it, right? Person executing the agreement has the authority to do so, and once executed, the agreement constitutes a binding obligation of the grant agreement. This is a legal document. Grantee's governing body must duly adopt or pass as an official act a resolution, motion, or similar action authorizing the person identified as the official representative of the grantee to sign the agreement and sign requests for payments. So just really quickly on that. So one thing that we want to share with everybody is once even though you don't have your grant agreement yet, you know what was passed in law, right? You may, after that governor has signed, take this to your council, take this to your commission, take this to your boards if you're a special district, and approve that. Approve whatever was approved in law. Once you receive your grant agreements, you can sign them. You can have that resolution done prior. So I know that's what? I didn't know we could do that. And I know it's kind of a little bit late, especially because you're going to be getting our grant agreements next week, right? But for the future, just know that. Okay. Okay, next, again, grantee shall abide by New Mexico laws regarding conflicts of interest, governmental conduct, and whistleblower protection. No funds have been paid or will be paid on or behalf of the grantee for any person for influencing or attempting to influence an officer or employee. Gloria, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
Okay, so we're going to ask you to turn off your microphone and your camera, please, if you don't mind.
Okay.
We will help you. Gio, if you don't mind helping with that, I'd appreciate it. Okay, let's move forward. So, Article 11. Let me just do something here really quickly. We're going to help you out here just a little bit. Good. Oh, there you go. Thank you so much. So Article 11, strict accountability of receipts and disbursements, project records. So grantee is accountable for receipts and disbursements relating to the project funds. The grantee shall follow generally accepted accounting principles and if feasible, maintain a separate bank account or fund with a separate organizational code for the funds to assure separate budgeting and accounting of the funds. All records related to the project must be kept for a period of 6 years following the project's completion. That's your responsibility. It's also our responsibility. We're supposed to keep what you submit to us and has been approved here for 6 years. Grantee must make all project records available to the Department of Finance and Administration, and the New Mexico State Auditor upon request. So, if you have any questions on that, let us know, okay? Sometimes my thing works here and sometimes it doesn't. Apologies. So I'm going to go over 3 different articles here. So improperly reimbursed funds. If the department determines all or part of the appropriation amount was improperly reimbursed to the grantee, including but not limited to project funds reimbursed to grantee based upon fraud, mismanagement, misrepresentation, sorry about that, misuse, violation of law by the grantee, or violation of this agreement, the grantee shall return such funds to the department for disposition in accordance with law. Next one is liability. Neither party shall be responsible for liability incurred as a result of the other party's acts or omissions in connection with this agreement. Any liability incurred in connection with this agreement is subject to immunities and limitations of the New Mexico Tort Claims Act. Scope of agreement. The agreement constitutes the entire and exclusive agreement between the grantee and the department concerning the subject matter thereof. So the agreement supersedes any and all prior or concurrent agreements, understandings, discussions, communications, and representatives, written or verbal. So the grant agreement rules. The scope of work on the agreement is what you can use the funding for. Next one, required non-appropriations clause in contracts funded in whole or part by funds made available under this agreement. Right? It's a big one. So on the left, you'll see this is what it actually states in your agreement. Grantee acknowledges, warrants, and agrees that the grantee shall include a non-appropriations clause in all contracts between it and other parties that are funded in whole or part by funds made available under this agreement and entered into after the effective date of this agreement, that states. So what does that mean, right? It means the grantee promises to add the non-appropriations clause to all contracts funded by this agreement, stating that if funds aren't available, the contract can be canceled. Terms of this agreement are contingent upon sufficient appropriations and authorizations made by, made by the New Mexico legislature. The grantee may immediately terminate this agreement by giving contractor written notice of the termination. The grantee will determine if there's enough money to complete the project. And if the grantee ends the agreement early, the contractor can complain about that, or ask for more money from the grantee department or state of New Mexico. Again, there's sometimes opportunities, right? There's opportunities for additional funding and, other grants, whatever, for your project. So just know that, right? But again, this is something that's in the grant agreement. On the next one, it's similar, but this particular one is it's a termination clause. So again, what does it mean? The legislature made an appropriation to the department, funds of which the department is making available to the grantee pursuant to the grant agreement. The department ends grant early. Grantee can end contract early by written notice to contractor. If terminated, grantee will only be liable for payment for goods and services delivered before the termination. Grantee waives rights to claim impairment of contract against Department of New Mexico in case of early termination by the department. So next, in compliance and uniform funding criteria. So this is all has to do with your audits and your reporting requirements, all of that stuff. So the grantee must submit all reports of annual audits and agreed upon procedures to the Office of the State Auditor. Entity must have a duly adopted budget for the current fiscal year approved by, in our case, the LGD Budget and Finance Bureau. You must submit all required financial reports to the LGD Budget and Finance Bureau. And again, they have several that you are required to do. It's in law, it's in statute. You must have adequate accounting methods and procedures to expend grant funds. But just know that your stuff is going to be audited. But if you want grant funding, you will need to be compliant with all of that, in compliance with all of that. So you must account for and safeguard these grant funds and assets acquired by the grant funds. Again, these are funds, again, these are provided by the states. We will need to make sure that we are, definitely taking care of what we're using these funds for. So consequences for not complying, again, a grant agreement cannot be issued, may not be issued. It could delay the issuing, or again, you might not even receive the agreement. There's lots of cases like that, and it breaks our heart. It really does. I mean, we really want to, these appropriations were allocated for the grantee, but if the grantee has not submitted their audit, if they're not in compliance with all of the reporting, it will stop us from being able to issue those grant agreements for you. So this is only if this next article, if the appropriation is funded by severance tax bonds. So there will be some, right? If you had some reauthorized projects that were funded with severance tax bonds, if they're just selling bonds for a project that you weren't ready for before and it's ready now. So there are going to be a little bit in there as well. So that's what all of this information means. So by signing this, again, you agree to all of the underlying appropriation for the project, that it is a severance tax bond or, whatever funding it came from, either general obligation bond, well, actually it's a severance tax bonds or general obligation bond. That all goes through the New Mexico State Board of Finance Bureau, or State Board of Finance Department, sorry. And with this one, State Board of Finance staff, they'll determine if there are any conditions on the project and inform each administrating agency who will inform the grantee. So what is that? That is the special conditions, right? Say, for instance, we see the information that was provided to us in the questionnaire, and they state an agreement wasn't available yet at that time for with the nonprofits you're going to be working with, or whatever that might be. And so we actually have to tell you, we're waiting on this. You'll need to provide this to us, and then it has to go through an approval process with us. We're trying to streamline that just to let you know and make it a little bit quicker. So just know that's what that means. If the department doesn't tell you about the condition imposed by the State Board of Finance, it doesn't mean the condition is invalid or enforceable. So just know that, because sometimes, staff changes within a state agency, and they may not know the project manager, like, oh, I didn't know that, right? And then, of course, so we're trying to be better on that side with us as well. So just know we're going to do our due diligence to try to get you all informed on all of that. And again, I think that with the new questionnaire, I hope you all liked it this year. I think it was a lot more user-friendly, and it actually allowed you to download that agreement. So I think that, we have very little that we actually will have special conditions on. So that excites me and our staff, definitely. So just know, though, also, if it wasn't really clear on the answers that were given in the questionnaire, the State Board of Finance can go back and ask you, and say, what, we're going to have a copy of an agreement with the nonprofit, because it wasn't clear on the information that you stated, but then, it was brought out later. So then special conditions may apply at that time. Again, if you meet all of State Board of Finance conditions before the department releases the funds for the project, then the grant agreement will be released. The department will only reimburse grantee for the expenditures related to the project if all the current conditions are met. So again, more on this. Again, there's a couple of areas in there. The organization receiving the grant understands and agrees that the State Board of Finance can decide to take away the bond money assigned to a project if the project doesn't move forward as expected. And again, we're talking about the entities that would need to set aside 5% of the project funds within 6 months of the bond money. Again, you're obligating that fund. You need to be confirmed that the organization in the document is all the documents are sent to the State Board of Finance. If you don't do this, the bond money might be given to another project that's ready. So again, we want to make sure that you are ready when you're accepting this funding, that you are definitely ready to move forward with that. If this happens, the grant agreement will be put on hold, as I stated earlier, until the organization shows that you're ready to move with this money. On C, it says the entity receiving the grant understands and agrees that the agreement follows the rules set by the State Board of Finance bond project disbursement rule, and which might change over time. The rule helps to decide if all the activities mentioned in the grant agreement are allowed or not. And we can show you where that is as well. So at this point, are there any questions at all on what I've presented on the grant agreement? It's quite a bit, I know. Anything at all? So before I turn it over to Jeanette, I want to show you all our website. Okay, so in here, if you go to the budget division, right on the top is the Capital Outlay Bureau. You go in there. Is there a question, Jeanette? Yes.
We're still seeing the presentation.
Oh, really? Okay, let me stop. I'll stop sharing and I'll just show this really quick, Jeanette, then I'll turn it over to you, okay? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Usually when you open something else, it'll show it, so I apologize. So just wanted to show you again, when you go onto our website, go onto Budget Division, Capital Outlay Bureau. It'll take you to the Capital Outlay Bureau here. And then what I wanted to show you is that again, the forms are here for you, but you just know with DFA, we will send you the forms, okay? The request form, the notice of obligation, all of that are in here for you. But I do also wanted to show you that here, the Senate Bill 275 that were just approved by the legislature and the governor, the full list is here with every state agency that is going to be administering those funds. Again, if you want to look at that, not only for the ones that were approved there, but also for the reauthorizations on Senate Bill 247 and the GOB bonds, the House Bill 308. And then there's also for all of the other years up to 2020 there for you to look at as well. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you on that side. And then on the local government side, if you just click here and then go to Community Development Bureau, you will find all of the information for legislative information. Okay, and then one more thing, the Department of Finance and Administration, the Board of Finance here on the rules and policies. If you click there, you will find what was mentioned in the grant agreement, and it is, looking for it for you, bond disbursement guidelines, right in here. If you ever want to, see what that is and read what that's all about as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move over, and I'm going to stop sharing for just a second, and so we can transition to Jeanette's presentation. One second. Yeah, sorry, it's coming up. So I hope you all found this informational. I know it was a little dry, and my apologies for that. But I just want to let you know that we're here to answer any questions for you. And so I just wanted to share that with you. So give me 1 second. So go ahead, Donald. You had a question while that presentation is popping up here?
I put it in the chat, but I don't know if you can see it. But do you have a sample resolution we could adopt authorizing the mayor to sign the agreements And does one resolution cover multiple agreements?
Yes, one resolution should, do multiple agreements. I don't know if I have anything like that, but I'll check for you, Donovan, and we'll send it out to everybody and actually put it on our website if we do, okay? Thank you for that. I'm sorry, Jeanette, this is taking a while to open. I don't know why.
No worries.
Do you want to talk while it's trying to open?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Jeanette Gallegos, I'm the Acting Division Director for Local Government Division. And when I heard that Carmen was going to be going over the grant agreement, I inserted myself to kind of give you some information about the year-end deadlines and our policy updates, which tie in to the grant agreement and especially to Article 9 of the grant agreement. So definitely wanted to be able to provide you that information. I think a lot of times the grant agreement can be very difficult to understand. It's long, there's a lot to it. And what we want to make sure is that we have entities that really are understanding what they're agreeing to prior to signing that document. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the busy day to day and we sign things and we don't really understand what we're agreeing to. So thank you, Carmen, for providing that information. I think it was really helpful. And again, as questions come up about the grant agreement, please reach out to your program manager to ask these questions and get any clarification that you may need. So let's talk about year end and some policy updates that we have happening now for fiscal year 2024. So in May, you should have received a memo from your program manager that gave you a list of all of your projects that were expiring now at the end of June. So if you did not get a list of projects expiring on June 30 of 2024, please reach out to your program manager. Please make sure that you have that communication going with them. You may not have some, but if you are not sure, please reach out so that we know that you're aware of any projects that are expiring. So that's really the difference in our year-end procedures this year, is that we're really focused on projects that are expiring moving forward. Now, why is that? Because they are expiring. So there is no tomorrow. We do have to make sure that we are processing those timely. We cannot, we do not have the authority at Local Government Division to extend the term of any appropriations. So we need to make sure that we are working hand in hand with you to get these projects reimbursed timely so that your communities do not lose out on any funding that was appropriated to them. So you are probably going to get more than one memo coming from your program manager. I'm going to actually ask that this gets sent out to you every week or every couple of weeks, just so we can keep updated on the status of these projects that are expiring. So if you get a little annoyed with the redundant emails coming from your program managers, just know that the intent is just to make sure that we are all on the same page and that we are really working as a team to get these projects expended timely. Now, talking about the grant agreement, it's really important that you understand what is in your grant agreement. So we went over the capital outlay grant agreement, but you may have other grant agreements with us. You may have one for a junior bill or a House Bill 2 appropriation that may look a little bit different and will look a little bit different. Instead of, the 40-page document, it'll be, or maybe I'm exaggerating, but the long document that Carmen just went over, it'll be a certification form that is usually 1 or 2 pages long. That will have a due date on that agreement that you need to follow as well. So those typically have a due date of July 15th as a final expenditure. So again, it's important that you're aware of the deadlines that you have in the grant agreements for the appropriations that you have been assigned. And as I mentioned before, it's really important that you are communicating with your local government division project manager on the status of all of these projects that are expiring on June 30 of 2024. You want to go to the next slide, Carmen?
You should be seeing it.
Okay, there we go. A little bit of a delay. So in addition to pay requests, we also have a deadline for encumbering appropriations in our system. So we are requesting that if you have a notice of obligation that has not been submitted, that you get that to us no later than June 14th, which is a week from today. Again, these are for projects that are expiring on June 30th. If your project is not expiring on June 30th, it's multi-year, you are not tied to a June 14th deadline. You can submit that and we will process those as we go because your project is multi-year and is not expiring. So again, that deadline is only for projects expiring on June 30th of 2024. And when you submit that notice of obligation, please make sure that you submit all supporting documentation so that we can have a full packet for the encumbrance that needs to happen so that you can receive future reimbursements for that notice of obligation. Next slide. And the gist of the year-end policy, I kind of alluded to it a little bit, is that in normal years or in prior years, we were really focused on anything that had an any project that had an expenditure occurring in fiscal year 24. We're really pushing to get all of that documentation in by the deadline. However, we have shifted our focus to really want to work with our grantees on the projects that are expiring, just because we do not want you to lose out on that funding. As mentioned, if it's a multi-year grant agreement not expiring now in June, we can still process those as they come in. But again, there is no tomorrow for projects expiring on June 30th. So I think this presentation may be stuck. If you can get to the next slide, Carmen.
I changed it. Let me stop sharing and go back in, okay? Because it's there. Give me one second.
Okay.
Okay, do you see it now?
I see a blank screen.
Huh,
Oh, there we go.
okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual deadlines and again, when I'm talking about deadlines, I'm talking about projects that are expiring. So you're going to have a couple different deadlines. You're going to see on some of your agreements, as I mentioned, if it's a certification form, which is that 1 or 2 page form, the deadline will be July 15th. And we will need all of your pay requests submitted by that date in order to process them here timely to ensure that there is no reversions made in our system to revert those funds back. Carmen did a really good job of going over Article 9 in the capital outlay grant agreement. So I want to talk a little bit about that. When we're talking about notice of obligations and how those need to, be submitted by next week, we're hoping that we don't have a lot of those outstanding notice of obligations for projects that are expiring, only because we know that these projects have been out there for at least 2 to 4 years. So hopefully we're not waiting to the 9th hour to get these encumbered. But if there are any, please let us know right away. Please get us that documentation so we can get those encumbered in time. And again, with the expenditure, the same thing holds true. As stated in Article 9, if you are in compliance with your grant agreement, then technically you should be submitting pay reimbursements for your expenditures within 30 days of incurring that expense. So again, we're hoping that we don't have a lot of grantees out there who are holding on to pay requests and waiting till the 9th hour to get reimbursed. As stated in the grant agreement, you should be submitting those periodically as you are incurring the expense. And again, that is to just ensure that we're showing that your project is moving along. We do get requests for information from different sources, whether it be the governor's office or Legislative Finance Council, wanting to check on the status of these projects. And if you're not submitting pay requests periodically or as the expenses being incurred, it looks like your project is not moving. So again, it's really important if you could really make sure that you're looking at Article 9 and being in compliance with Article 9. Now, when we are talking about capital legislative projects, the grant agreement, as you saw in Article 9, had a date in there that said that 20 days from the reversion date, which would be June 30th, is when those pay requests are due. That is our drop dead deadline. So any pay requests received after June 20th, unfortunately, we cannot pay. And again, that is in the grant agreement. It is a legal binding document. And we want to make sure that everyone is aware this is a different policy than what we've had in the past. In the past, we were allowed to put these on accounts payable. That is no longer the case. We no longer are allowed to put these pay requests for capital outlay on accounts payable. Again, the grant agreement is being strictly enforced. So please, if you have any questions or any concerns with that, work with your program manager. We do not have the luxury or the authority to extend the termination date on these appropriations, but our goal is to get you paid for any expenditures that you have. And we just need you to help us make sure that we get that documentation by July 20th.
Thank you for clarifying the date. It's July 20th, yes? Okay.
Yes, that is the drop dead deadline. Now, we would love to get it by July 15th, so we have more time to process, but the legal binding document that we all signed, both the agency and the grantee, does say 20 days after reversion date. So that would be July 20th.
Thank you, Jeanette. There is a question. You're welcome to turn on your microphone if you'd like, if that's okay, Jeanette.
Sure.
Okay, hi, this is Rita, with Bernalillo County. I do have a question regarding if the reimbursement is under $1,500. Is there an exception for submitting that pay request due to the deadlines?
Yes, so if you are at the end of the fiscal year and your remaining balance is under $1,500, then you need to send that in. There is no, and there actually is no requirement for general fund either. The STBs through the bond disbursement rule is where we have that limitation of the pay requests need to be $1,500 or more, except for year end. Year end, if you have your remaining balance is $1,000, then you need to go ahead and submit a pay request for that remaining $1,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? I know this is a little bit different. As I mentioned, the accounts payable is no longer available for capital outlay. So wanting to make sure everyone gets that message. And again, program managers will be reaching out. They may be reaching out a little more often than you want them to. But again, we just want to make sure that everyone is aware that, the drop dead deadline for capital outlay for us to receive your pay request for projects expiring is July 20th. And this slide is just telling you we have a couple of different types of appropriations that we have under general fund. One is capital outlay. Capital outlay is funded by both general fund and STBs. So you just need to make sure that you know what you have in your grant agreement. The The only difference is that, actually, there really is not a difference, except that, when it comes to year end, there is no difference for capital outlay, whether it's funded general fund or STBs. The same deadlines will pertain. Junior bill appropriations and House Bill 2 special appropriations are also funded with general fund. And as mentioned, those grant agreements typically have a July 15th deadline in the agreement. So again, just be aware of what your agreement has for your particular appropriations that you have that are expiring now at the end of June.
May I add something to that, Jeanette?
Mhm.
Those of you who received recreation grants, right, in 22 and 23, that had, some of them had a reversion date of June 30th this year, and some have June 30th, 2025. If they were funded with general fund, with general fund, they would not apply, obviously. But there were some that were funded with the ARPA funds or the federal funds for the 2022 and all of the 2023 for the recreation grants. My plan is, and this is my goal, is to get that amendment to you to extend that, because that was approved to extend the reversion date. So we're finalizing that template now, and we should be getting that all to everybody, I hope, next week.
Yes, thank you,
There's
Carmen. Thank
you're
you for
welcome.
that
Thank you.
clarification.
Thank you. And then there's a couple of questions. Is the federal match appropriation a special appropriation? I'm new to federal match funds due June 30th. The answer is yes.
Yes, it is a special appropriation.
Yes,
And I do believe it's on that certification form as well.
great. Yes. Okay, thank you, everybody. And then just one more question. Well, there was a question in here on your email address. We'll make sure to correct that on our side. My apologies to the Santa Clara Pueblo. Another question, is there any form of confirmation policy in place that at the Roundhouse for when reauthorization request documentation is received? Sorry, it moved on me. That I believe that's all in, there's instructions on the capital outlay website. I'm sorry, not the capital outlay website, but the legislative website under capital outlay. There's instructions in there on the reauthorizations and all that's, their policies on all of that as well. And if
The
anybody's
reason I
on,
asked
I
that
can answer
question is because when I
Uh-huh.
submitted my reauthorization, it never made the bill and nobody bothered to tell me.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Oh.
Again, I don't have that information. If there's anybody here from Budget Division, Tonantzin, or anyone else that might be able to answer that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah,
Sarah,
unfortunately,
yes.
I think, I believe that would be, those are handled on, oh, there's Sarah. Sarah, maybe you
Yes.
can shed some light on this for us.
You're
You're muted,
you're
Sarah.
muted, Sarah.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me better? My apologies.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yeah, so I can't speak to that specific project. If you wouldn't mind emailing me that information, and then maybe we can look into that. There's a lot of moving parts with this whole process. Like I said, if you'd like to email me that, I could give you my email if you'd like to jot that down, ma'am.
Well, I'll give just a quick rundown of what happened. I only had one grant that required a reauthorization. And I submitted the paperwork back in January to my state representative to sign. And then my state representative, as kind man as he can be, walked it down to the lady's office. He never told me who he actually dropped it off to. Yeah, I know. type of situation. Yay, roundhouse legislation time. Anyway, I've requested multiple times if someone could at least give me a copy that stated it was received. Sadly, legislation was in full swing and I never heard back from anybody. After legislation was completed, I reached out to see whatever came of it, and that's when I found out that it never actually made the bill. It got lost on somebody's desk at the roundhouse. So that's why I was asking just politely if there was some sort of confirmation policy in place. So at the very least, for my records, I could potentially get it received. Since then, I have been in contact with people at Capital Outlay, and it turns out there was an error on my grant as for the expiration date, and it has been given an extension. So I can breathe a little easier, but the reason I'm asking is so anybody ever happens to be in the situation that I was, I'm just trying to make sure that all bases are covered.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
that's, you know, that's the case. I'm sorry, Carmen, I didn't mean to interrupt
ahead.
you. And
No, that's
that's the case that we find quite a bit, ma'am, is, you know, across the street is another ball game from our game during the session. And, you know, there's a lot of fast and furious paperwork going on back and forth over there. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, we're sort of in the end game of what's going on across the street, and you know, we get the bill and whatnot, and, you know, make sure that to the best of our abilities that all the RIOS are captured in that bill. But like I said, unfortunately, we don't have any control over, you know, you know, the legislators or, you know, people who may be staffing their offices. And it does seem like you did get a little bit of resolution, and I'm glad that did happen.
Me too.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah and Dallas. Jeanette, did you want to add anything else before I take over again?
Yeah, no, that was it. Just, you know, thank you for your time this morning, everyone. If you have any questions related to projects and when you should submit them, or any clarifications needed on the due dates, you know, please reach out, please let us know. And please pay attention to the communication coming from your program managers. We are just trying to make sure that we are all on the same page and that everyone knows which one of your projects are set to expire on June 30th, so that we get the documentation needed to pay you timely and not have any of these funds revert. So again, thank you for your time today, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Jeanette. Just want to do a quick reminder, please, on the ICIP submission deadlines. Hopefully you'll see this on your screen. Our special districts are due Friday, June 14th. So again, if you have not you know, entered all of your information into the database and then your submissions, please know that you have until Friday to do that. If you have any questions on that, please reach out to myself or Gio. Also, tribal governments, counties and municipalities are due July 12th. And then we're hoping to get that final publication done by September 13th. Also, again, if you want any information on any of the trainings that we've done so far, you can go on to our ICIP webpage, and it'll have all of the recordings as well as the presentations are there for you as well, the PDFs. And then always, again, taking this opportunity to thank our councils of governments. There are boots on the ground, and I know that they not only help you with your ICIP, but they help you, you know, fill out different applications, all of that stuff. So just know we truly appreciate them and everything that they offer you and the state of New Mexico. And moving forward, why won't it let me? And then just one more thing, it's just again, remind you all to please save the date for the 27th annual New Mexico Infrastructure Finance Conference. It's going to be on October 28th through 30th at the Isleta Resort and Casino. And again, this is your opportunity to be able to meet with different funding agencies, not only state, but also federal agencies as well. So this is an absolute great opportunity to be able to do that. And as well as, you know, network with other entities and get information from them. How do they fund projects? All of that good stuff. It's always a great opportunity to meet everybody. Okay, and then next, I think that's it. Just to give you all our contact information for Jeanette, our acting director here at LGD, Giovanna, for helping to set all of these trainings up. It's always so much to try to get all of these together. And my apologies to you all for not getting you the presentations quicker, as just that we were actually making last minute corrections this morning. So sorry about that, but hopefully you all got them. If not, just know they will be on the website. And then just a couple questions that I'm going to touch on here really quickly. So please let Navajo Nation lead agents made aware of the reports and deadlines. We will definitely do that. Thank you, Michael. And Deanne is asking, I missed the information about the recreation grants. Did you say that those with a reversion date of 6/30/24 were going to be extended? Yes, they were. Those and also the capacity grants from last year are going to be extended, and you'll be getting your amendments next week from DFA. Okay, and we again, those are they're being reviewed right now, and then we will be able to get those to you by next week. So thank you all so much for your time again today. I'm sorry we went a little bit over. Have a great lunch and a great weekend, everybody. Thank you again.